To the cloud. Good morning, everyone. So you are in our How to Be the Best Mentor You Can Be session for Mentors for Executive Alliance for the 2022-23 year. And I am so delighted to have Adrienne Flynn with us. She has a deep history in terms of mentoring and nurturing young people through her work as the recently retired Internships and Career Development Director at the Merrill College of Journalism or School of Journalism in the University of Maryland. And this past summer, she piloted the mentoring program for the Maryland, Delaware, DC Press Association to really help to stand up a mentoring program for student journalists, pairing them with mentors for an 8-week program. And we got rave reviews from that program. And Adrienne had a wonderful session on really what it is to mentor and how to make sure that you're not just feeding advice, but creating that relationship that's really going to benefit both your protege and yourself. So Adrienne, with that, I will turn it over to you. And just let me know when you want me to share the screen for your presentation.
I will in about 10 seconds. So I am Adrienne Flynn, and Rebecca's done a great introduction. I also was an editor, city editor, copy editor, and Washington, D.C. correspondent for newspapers and news companies in Ohio, Arizona, and of course, D.C. So I have some experience, trying to bring up the next generation of journalists. So that's part of, the experience that I bring to the table. So today I'm just going to talk about what's a mentor, kind of how you create that relationship and kind of some things you can do to further that relationship along. I'm having a few privacy setting issues with my brand new computer, so I apologize for that. Rebecca is going to be my my aide de camp here, so hopefully this will be, you won't notice anything, it'll be seamless. So if you can just start my PowerPoint, that would be fantastic. Mentoring is a relationship. It is, and unfortunately I can't see see if I can see my screen. Yes, no, probably not. Because let's see, hold on. I am going to see what I can do here.
Do you want me to show it so you can see the notes below? It shows your seams a little bit, but we're all friends here. Life happens.
Yes, we can do that, but if I can take 10 seconds, if I could just reduce the size of this screen, but I don't think it's going to let me. Hold on 1 second. Nope, that's not going to do it. Yeah, it won't let me minimize the window so I can see the rest of my my notes. So you might as well just show my notes. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Okay, let me get out of that into here and share the correct screen now. Oops.
Yeah, I actually I have them open on my screen, but like my screen takes over with Zoom and I can't see them.
Totally get it. Okay,
Genius.
So now everyone can see the screen. Okay, I'm going to go back on mute and.
Okay, and there's a part of mentoring right there. So one of the things that you're doing when you're a mentor is sharing all the good things that you've done and trying to guide somebody, but you can't forget that you're human and you make mistakes, and actually sharing some of your own trials and tribulations in your business can be really helpful as you go forward with your protege, because then they see you as another person who's had to come up and struggle and figure things out for themselves. So I'm just going to just put that out there. If you would advance, please, that would be excellent. So A mentor is a person who you hope will match with you a little bit in terms of interests or personality or whatever. You probably already had mentors in your life, people that you clicked with. It could be a clergy member, it could be a teacher, a parent. Sometimes people click with one parent better than another. I know my dad and I kind of were simpatico, and my mom and I were like two different planets. Even so, these people become your mentors. They do it subconsciously or they do it consciously. They tell you things about your life and you're able about their lives. They share things with you and provide you with resources and their advice and wisdom and counsel. And those things become kind of informal mentoring relationships. We're going to talk a little bit more about more formal relationships. Could you switch screens, please? So this is a relationship based on mutual trust, respect, and flexibility. And remember, whenever you're mentoring someone, this should be a reciprocal relationship. That means that you are going to get something out of this, that, you are not just going to be hanging out there alone. You'd be surprised at what your proteges will have to teach you. I always use the example of sort of all my younger students teaching me how to be a better social media, user. I put more things out there. I teach more things. And I was gratified when I left the university when my communications manager for the journalism department said, "Are you going to leave us your job Twitter?" And it's called Merrill Works, if you want to look it up. And he said, your account is gold. You've really built that up to a well-used, beloved site for the college. So I had about 2,000 followers when I left. I had alumni dating back, probably 8-10 years at least, and all the new kids were jumping on it. So they used that account to build their own accounts because my students taught me to be successful with social media. So you can learn a lot from your proteges. So how do you do that? We're going to build that. If you want to advance again, please. We're going to build that by being really good mentors. To be a good mentor, you have to be able to recognize what works for a mentor and what doesn't work for your protege. So I'm going to this is about the only screen I'm going to spend on being a bad mentor. So these are personality traits and things that people do that make your mentor, that can destroy your mentorship relationship. Not communicating. I mean, the most important thing you do as a mentor of somebody is communicate with them. In fact, a lot of times your communication is just you listening and them talking. It's a lack of commitment. Yes, I'd love to be your mentor, and then you don't ever have time. Personality clashes where people are just really at loggerheads. Sometimes that happens in a business. Where, this person is really going to try to step on your back to get ahead, and that doesn't work. Judging people on their appearance, judging people on their background, judging people on what school they went to, judging people for whatever. People have things to bring to the table no matter where they're from. So you need to open up to the possibilities. Being inside your own self and talking about yourself all the time. We as teachers would learn right away that you can tell a lot of war stories in class about the cool things that you've done in your career. And that gets old really fast because what the students want to learn from you is, what do I do? How do I do this? And they don't want to listen to your stories. Finally, being in competition with your protege is not a good situation, or your protege being in competition with you. So you need to set some of these things aside in order to be a good mentor. Rebecca, would you flip 2 screens ahead, please? we're gonna we're gonna skip the pretty picture for now. So there are different types of mentoring relationships. There's a traditional mentor. That's what we think of when people says, oh yeah, I'm going to be your mentor. That's a senior executive paired with a junior employee who is being groomed for some kind of ascendancy within the organization. It's classic. They're often rough because there tend to be assignments. The best mentor relationships are voluntary. You do this because you want to, and the protege wants a mentor, and everybody sort of steps into the role because that's what they want to do. Peer-to-peer mentoring, very helpful. My son was just doing this for Leidos. I don't know if you're familiar with that company, but he's a relatively new employee. He'd been there about 6-8 months when he was asked to train the incoming class of geographic analysts, geographic information analysts that he had begun just 6 months before. And he was able to really tell them about the pitfalls he ran into, the glitches in the computer system, and all the little details of life that made their transition into the company a lot easier. And he had only been there about 6 months. So that is sharing best practices, emotional support. Yes, I know what you're going through. I mean, these are really people who are maybe just a bare minimum ahead of where you are. And then finally, there's reverse mentoring, which I think in every mentoring relationship, there is a little bit of this, and that's that reciprocal relationship. But it's where a younger employee or a member coaches an older one to do something that they don't know how to do. Might be, I always, again, use the internet or the sort of tech aspect of the world. How do I make my computer do what I want it to do? Today, I'm frustrated by that because my privacy settings are not cooperating with me. And I suspect that it's actually somewhere in the university because that's where my Zoom account is. And so I just can't figure out what button to click off. But if I had a nice younger person, my IT desk, for example, is all staffed by computer science students, I'm sure they could fix that in a heartbeat. So these are the typical relationships, but all of these relationships can be in person, they can be virtual, regardless of how you set up your mentoring meetings with somebody, virtual is going to work for you. But I do recommend that you have some in-person contact with these folks, at least to celebrate some successes or to get to know one another. Okay, so if we can move on. So now let's talk about what a good mentor looks like. Commitment. As I said, it should be voluntary. You should be in this relationship because you want to be. Assignments, I have found in all my research shows, don't create the best, most nurturing environment for people. People are doing it because they have to rather than because they want to. When you commit, you need to tell your protege that I want to help make you grow. What do you want from me? Those should be the kinds of questions that you're asking in your initial meeting. You're also going to spend, especially initially, more time listening to them than you are talking. You really want to hear their story. So again, that relationship grows because you're paying attention to them. You're giving of yourself and your time, and you're investing in their success. Provide resources for them. This goes beyond the company handbook. You can point to the company handbook all you want, but if you are providing resources from your own life, for example, when I would mentor students or when I would mentor interns, I would typically send them different articles that I would find about their work. I would show them best practices. I would pull down information about how you do something in journalism and you share it with them and talk them through it and help them figure out. If I found a great journalism biography, for example, of someone who maybe they never heard of, Tom Brokaw, for example, which I'm guessing all of you probably have heard of, but my students a lot of them just don't really know who Tom Brokaw is, because he's a retired, news anchor, who had a lot to say in his biography and a lot to say in some of his books. And I might point them to those resources. Make time. If your protege has the temerity to call you on the telephone, on an off day when you weren't supposed to meet with that protege, there is a reason. Find out what that reason is before you ghost them or blow them off or whatever it is. Maybe they're super anxious about talking to their boss about something that's really important and they need your help. Maybe it's nothing, in which case you can say, can we just deal with this, in our meeting on Tuesday? But making time for people is really important in a mentoring relationship. Stick to it. So if your mentoring relationship, you volunteer for your company's mentoring program, and you commit to it, and that mentoring program is meant to last 6 months of their probationary period. Okay, be there for the whole 6 months. But I'll tell you what, if they know that you're going to be there after the 6 months, that relationship is going to be better. Encouraging them, making them see that you are there for the long haul, and that even if they maybe left the company or moved to a different place in the company, that they might still call on you for advice and counsel. Finally, there is nothing more important, I think, other than communication in a mentoring relationship than being a good cheerleader. As I wrote here, encouragement is oxygen for the soul. And you're being their cheerleader. So you want to notice when they do something well. You want to reward that. You want to make them feel good about your relationship and that you're noticing what they are doing right. If you talk something over and, the next time you meet or a couple times from that, you notice that they did that thing, you should be telling them, great, I'm so glad you used that technique. I'm so proud of you. If we can advance one more. Yes, I'm skipping the pictures for Rebecca's sake. So practically, as a mentor, what you're doing is being a guide, showing them the ropes. And I think your first meeting really sets the tone for what you're going to, the ground floor, the foundation of your relationship. So the things that you can do to at that initial meeting can really help the relationship develop. So, you are going to show them the ropes. You're going to talk about industry best practices. You're going to share your story. Don't let it dominate your relationship, but you need to tell them how you got where you are and how you expect to progress through your career. Don't forget to let them tell their story, and you need to listen to that. And always offer help. If they're having a problem, you always offer help, even if that's as simple as, I'm here to listen. I don't know how to solve your problem, but maybe together by listening, you can come up with ideas that might work and you can bounce them off me. Finally, one of the really important things I think you can do as a mentor is help them set goals for their career. And this should be in your first couple of meetings. And these goals should be, attainable. They should be a stretch. They should be actionable. More on that in just a second. Let's move forward a little bit. So this is where I talk about what you are going to do as a mentor. People always wonder, okay, well, I'm your mentor, but what do I do? Well, you meet with somebody, you talk with them, you share information at its basic level. Your initial meeting should be a mutual get to know you session. As I said at the outset, don't forget to share the downs of what you've done. You've made mistakes. They can learn from them just as much as you have if you tell those stories. Set regular times and dates and places for meetings and stick to them. Don't ghost people when they call. Respect their time. If your protege is ghosting you, ask them point blank, do you want me to continue as your mentor? Are we not clicking here? Do you want me to set you up with someone else? Because if they're ghosting you, they're not respecting you. And it's got to be a relationship of mutual respect. So if that keeps happening, see if you can move them to somebody who might do them more good, because that relationship is not working for you. Again, set career goals, but also establish goals for your relationship. What does that person want from you? What do they need a mentor to give them? Because everybody comes to a mentoring relationship from a different place. You provide, certain information to them from your particular world. But they may actually need you for your relationship with, something else that you do, your coaching relationship or something. And Rebecca, I don't know if you can scroll the screen up a little bit because I forget my own 5 M's, although I can look them up. Yeah. So it's sort of the 5 M's of mentoring. Let's see if I can find this in my notes. Is to model behavior. So part of that respect relationship is modeling appropriate behavior. Call people back, acknowledge their communication, be available when they have a problem, even if it's as a sounding board. Have your mentor people. So that's, and you should be mentoring those around you as well as your protege, because that's, again, kind of about modeling. Encourage your protege to help other people around them. You want to monitor their performance and their work, and provide critical feedback to them so they understand what it is that they've done right, notice good work, and what they can do better. Don't talk about doing it wrong, but talk about how to improve. Because again, your role is as cheerleader, not as, chief critic. You want to motivate them. For interns, I used to give dumb little awards. I'd go and get a bunch of little keychains that had the University of Maryland logo on them, and they're super inexpensive, or stickers. They love stickers to stick on their laptops. Very inexpensive acknowledgments of good behavior. You could buy them a drink. They're adults now. I didn't have adults. You can take them to lunch. You can, give them a gift card. You're executives. In theory, you have a couple of bucks to blow on encouraging someone to excellent performance. And I'm telling you, it does not have to be expensive. Provide them with a stupid, one of the other very inexpensive, motivational rewards I used to use is a certificate. And, I'm a word person and a paper, I design on paper. So it was easy to make a certificate that was customized to their abilities, but you can find them online and download them and print them on your printer. And then you can write in whatever you want in the certificate, and you can hand it to them, and they can stick it on their desk, put it on their bulletin board. It says, reward for a job well done. All of these goals should be in writing. I know that sounds funny, it can be email, it can be, a note between you, it can be on paper, but honestly, write down the things that you are going to encourage them to do in their career. And you're going to write down and set in concrete when you are going to meet, what your goals are for this relationship between the two of you. There's nothing that really cements a relationship like putting it in writing. I have even had mentors go so far as to create, like you do with your kids, a parent-child contract. You can do that with your protege. Here's our contract. We've set these goals. We're going to do these things. Let's both sign it and stick it on our bulletin boards, because this is how we're going to proceed from here on. The last M is multiply. So you're going to go forth and you're going to mentor them, and then they are going to mentor others. And then those other people are going to mentor other people. And in theory, your whole company is going to benefit from this one relationship that you have established with your protege, because you're going to encourage them to go out and do the same thing with other people. Remember, goals, as I said before, should be appropriate, attainable, measurable, clearly stated, aspirational, and as I said, in writing. If you make your goals meet these standards, they're going to be more effective as meeting them. And I can't stress the clearly stated enough. So when you're writing these goals down between the two of you, make sure that they're understood. Ask a lot of questions. Do you know what this term is? Because, mentoring students in particular, I find that they don't understand the terminology of my business. And so a lot of times I just have to make sure that they understand the words that I'm using. Every business has unique language. Every company takes that language and develops its own language. And so when you're writing these goals, make sure they understand what you're talking about. That's all I'm saying. Can we move another slide? Okay, so practical steps. I'm just going to reiterate this. Set an agenda for every session, even if it's one item. Okay, I hate personally attending meetings that don't have any agendas, because then you just ramble all over the place. Okay, in a mentoring relationship, it's absolutely appropriate to ramble a little because you're getting to know each other. That's okay. But you should try to keep these meetings on track. You're executives. You only have so much time. So to get to the things that are really important in your relationship, set an agenda. Share your work as well as them sharing theirs. So they can see what you do, and that helps them model your behavior. And you can, when they share work with you, you can provide feedback and guidance that can help them move forward. Again, you are not there. Feedback doesn't mean, rip it up and start all over again. This is terrible. What you're trying to be is encouraging. Good start. You need to add these levels of layers of detail or whatever it is, but this is a good start. So keep your tone encouraging. You don't want to spoil the relationship right away with a lot of criticism. That doesn't mean don't be critical. That is your job, but soften your tone a bit. Suggest readings, videos, presentations, those things that helped you. I find little LinkedIn videos really help me a lot. LinkedIn Learning helps me a lot. So I was really trying to brush up at one point on Microsoft Excel, which is what we use for database reporting. And at its basic level, it's really simple. I'm a little math averse, if you know me pretty well. But I've developed a great skill at looking things up. And so that includes I cut that. So I just got a question about, do I have slides that you'd recommend? So LinkedIn Learning has a really great little mentoring program that you can watch on video. And I will try to look it up and I'll send it to Rebecca. And I will pull that slide that I cut from this demonstration with some resources that might be helpful for you. And I'll send it to Rebecca and she can send it around to all of you. Okay. Of course, Katie, thanks. So you're going to share a lot of different things with them. Stay encouraged, suggest readings, videos, presentations. If you catch something on PBS or something and you think it'd be great, send them a link. It's that simple, because that also says that you're thinking of them. In between the times that you're meeting, you can just, as soon as you see it, make sure you send them a link. Hey, check this out. This is right on the money with what we were talking about. Encourage innovation. So one of the things you're going to get presented to you as a mentor in a mentor-protege relationship is problems. They're going to lay these complex, weighty decisions at your feet and expect you to help them solve it. Okay, but what you really want to do is help them figure out how to solve it on their own. So encourage them, have them write down 5 solutions. What do you think would work? What are you thinking here? Let's do some role playing. Let's figure out what might happen if you took that solution, and let them eventually come to their own conclusions. You're right. This is the thing that is going to work the best. So as you present information, don't just keep giving them the answer, even though you know it. Cheer every small success, celebrate the large successes. And I mean, go out for a drink, send them a stupid certificate. Your role is always as their advocate, not as their critic. Last thoughts, and Rebecca, if we could move along. So mentoring is, even in a business relationship, is about allowing someone to discover their own dreams and realize them. It is in a professional context. That doesn't mean you're going to be their mother. That doesn't mean you're going to, they're not going to make the Olympics with your help, probably. But you are going to help them realize their career dreams. If they really, really want to work for Vogue or the New York Times, from my world, or as my son did, he wanted to work for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which is where he is today. You find mentors and people that are going to help you get there. And so, you might connect them with your contacts, which is another thing that you can do. You can give, once you get to know this person and they're competent and they're moving forward, you start to help them network in your business. You start to move them forward. And then, you show them the path to their dreams. You need to help proteges realize both their talent and their deficits. Showing them those things help them overcome their deficits and really allows their talent to grow. I am, and I bet a few of you are too, totally guilty of this whole imposter syndrome thing, which is very popular to talk about right now, but we didn't talk about it when I was, young, but now we do. Good. Because every day I would get up and teach, and I would say, I'm a journalist, not a teacher. But I spent 22 years teaching students without an education degree. And so I always felt like I was not really supposed to be there. And yet I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students who have, sent me thank you notes about all the wisdom that they took away from my classes and the good things that they learned. So even though you may think that you are not doing this well, you probably are. And proteges are going to have that same problem. They're going to say, I don't know how to do this. Well, I didn't either when I stepped up to the plate, but, you take a few swings and I'll be damned if you don't hit the ball every once in a while. Okay. Finally, I did really like this quote from Russell Brand, who wrote a book called Mentors. His mentoring is his journey through substance abuse. So it's not for everyone. It's not a business mentoring book. I have a few of those if we want to talk about those, and I'll put a list together and I'll send that to you. So, but he says, through proper mentorship, a transition of skills, a nurture of energy can take place that, I hate this word, instantiates an adult from the beautiful wreckage of childhood, a sober man from a drunk, a master from a student, and a mother from the girl. In other words, this transition, what you give and what you take out of this relationship is the thing that makes people develop. And it's as simple as that. And there are all different ways to help that happen, but ultimately it is a personal relationship between you and that person who is your protege. And while all the techniques in the world, help you with these things, ultimately it's going to be what you give of yourself and what they give to you. I am open to questions. Again, I will share some resources with Rebecca and she will send them along to you. I'm sorry I cut that slide. Does anybody have any other questions for me?
Actually, I wanted to help contextualize for everyone. I think that was terrific, Adrienne, and thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to make sure that everybody sort of knew how they were matched with their protege, and maybe Maria can share a little bit. Like, this was intentional; it wasn't just names out of a hat. And
I wish it was names out of a hat. That would be so much easier.
That would be.
We really took,
you
you know, because these are folks that are not working with you, and they're obviously in different fields of interest, some of them. But what we tried to do in the application, we asked them what skill sets they're interested in learning, what they feel like their strengths are, and what their weaknesses are. And we specifically tried to match them with the skill sets that you have, or the job area you're in, or just a skill that we on the committee have observed in you over the years that we've known you. And part of this is really about helping them understand and have a person they can talk to that is not in charge of their career destiny, you know, isn't their boss, isn't their work person, and being able to say, this is the world outside there. We have typically, I would say this has been true for at least the 5 years that I've been on mentoring. And I think Jenny has shared that, and this has been true for other mentee classes. And certainly when I was in the mentee class, we typically have 2, if not 3, of the women change jobs during their time with us. And part of that is a lot of the work of what happens with the mentors, because they are able to ask questions and they are able to, you know, really think about how whatever the skills they have at work or whatever they're doing, how that may or may not be their actual dream of what they want to do, and how they might be able to utilize that to kind of catapult them to the next level, whether it's inside or outside their company. And I think that's kind of how we paired you. I will send you some follow-up information about your mentee, so their application pieces, so you'll be able to see what they said as well. But we also have a contract that we have created that, you know, you can use it in totality or pieces of it, that kind of outlines a lot of what Adrienne talked about, and sort of what are you all agreeing to as your work together. Maybe the schedule that you're doing, the goals. We have found that it's helpful if they have some concrete goals that they can help work out with you. Tracy, you had a mentee last year who was Allison, who was very focused. Like, part of it is her personality, and part of it is that she had very clear things that she wanted to do during her time. And then Tracy could sort of help her kind of work through that, right? And you want to share just a little bit about that?
Yeah. We used that contract, and then she had specific goals, and every single time we met, I'd say to her, which one do you want to talk about in this session? Or do you want to talk about all of them? Or do you want to just give updates? Or do you have questions? And so throughout the entire year, we were doing that. In fact, I'm having breakfast with her to wrap everything up because she went through a lot of changes. She had a baby, she got promoted, she, is considering other opportunities. And that was a big part of what she was going through, and having that outside person to talk to her. She's in the cyber field, not that I'm in the cyber field, but I know a lot of people that are. And so she was able to leverage my network to do informational interviews during her maternity leave to kind of inform her on what's out there in the marketplace and what potential opportunities could be. She's a go-getter, but that format worked really, really well for her and I. We set all the dates just like Adrienne suggested. We stuck to them. We had some in person, some over Zoom, some by phone, some were over breakfast, some were over lunch, some were just at night. Like, we made it work. But it was a really fulfilling experience for me to watch her growth during the process, and to help her navigate what she was dealing with at work. So I'm excited about my person for this year. So it's interesting that you pair us with people who there's a real thought process behind that. So I'm excited to work with her too.
One of the things I think that they sometimes, depending on the person, that I just want to put in your all heads, is that they are often afraid. What we have found is they are a little hesitant to access your network. Like they don't want to offend you. Like you're the only person, like in their mind, they're like, they don't want to say like, Violet, you're great, but I'd like you to introduce me to like other people, because they get nervous, right? That they're going to think that they don't think you're enough. And part of what we have really encouraged them to do is to, after they've met with you a few times, to sort of talk about who else you might know that might be useful to them. And then, whether, you can connect them with you and, as the third person, or whether you connect them on their own and they meet, because some of them have very specific skills that not all of us have, right? And when I went through the mentoring program, it was a paper book that we got of all the members of EA. Now, it's online, what people do. But I went through that book and with my mentor, Ellie, and I said, I want to meet this person, this person, this person. I wanted to meet this woman who worked at Rite Aid, right? She was a GM for a region Rite Aid. I had no particular interest in being a GM, but I didn't even know what that was. Like I had no idea what that job did. And I wanted just to know it, right? And I figured, when else am I going to run into somebody who knows that, right? So just sort of, we really want them to think about how you can be useful to them in a way that is both what you bring to the table with them, what you will learn from them in your conversations, and then who else that they might need to know both in and out of EA. Because I think that broadens their perspective for the year, and frankly also lets them sort of see how to network. So many people, even in this day and age when networking feels like it's a thing that everyone does, right? You typically network within your own business, right? Line. So if you are a banker, you know a lot of bankers. If you're a lawyer, you know a lot of lawyers. If you're, a nonprofit exec, you know a lot of nonprofit execs. But you might not, but you have other people in your network, and these young women in the sort of midpoint of their career have been surrounded by those who look and feel and are like them, whatever their field is. And this is their opportunity to really get outside of that. And it's what so many of them write about why they pursue the EA mentor program versus one in their own company, is because they want to meet and expand their network beyond whatever that is, the field of interest that they're specifically in. So we obviously just wanted, go ahead.
I would just add that, whenever you're going to some kind of a business event or you're joining an industry event or something, see if your protege can come as a +1.
Yep.
And then you have them there and you can introduce them around. I mean, you can also send emails to people that might be useful for them, and that can provide that critical entree if they're really shy about reaching out on their own. So if you set that up and set them up for success, that might work better for someone who's particularly shy.
And
I think it's really a great opportunity for, and I know that probably Katie and Tracy and Patty would say this, that you learn things from your mentee. Like they have a different network also, right? And it's an opportunity for you. We've tried to create partnerships where you all might have some kind of synergy from a business perspective, even if you aren't in the same business line, right? There's something that you might be a win for you in getting to know more people in that arena that they're playing in as well. And that just then becomes more symbiotic. And then you have an opportunity to really stay connected long beyond your time in this year in EA. Also know that one of the things that even though I do think we do a pretty good job of trying to match mentors and mentees, I'm going to tell you sometimes it doesn't work. For some reason, the synergy doesn't get there. And so we ask them and you to give it like a couple meetings, a couple times together to determine that it's really not the right mix before you sort of say, we're not perfect, right? Because not everyone hits it off right away, and so we want it to sort of be a little bit, but we've changed mentors during the year, almost once a year, every year, give or take, just because for some reason, what they say they want and what it doesn't work, or time schedules. Sometimes it's been that they can only really talk at, in the morning and you're busy in the morning and you can never do that, or vice versa. So we do ask that we guys kind of give it the yeoman's try before we say it doesn't work. And then know that Karen Bond and I are there to sort of be the intermediaries, so that you don't have to be the person that says, yeah, my mentee and I, it doesn't work. We can try to help sort of facilitate that. And then if there needs to be a change, we're willing to do that and make that happen. So
I did go ahead and put some resources into the chat for you all.
Good.
Great.
So that's just kind of a little quick hit list of things that you can read, a couple of things that you can watch on best practices for mentors generally.
Wonderful. That's great. Thank you.
And
Rebecca?
yeah, I just wanted to kind of close this out with a question. I know we're getting close to time, but since everybody's in sort of the beginning stages of this mentoring relationship with their new person, what do you do if they're not quite, if the mentee or your protege has not quite articulated, doesn't quite know what they want? Like how much do you kind of pull out? I mean, Tracy's experience with Allison last year, Allison was a machine in many respects, like not everybody is like that. So how do you recommend people kind of navigate if the protege is like, oh, I'm in the program, I'm not sure, like you don't feel like you've gotten enough to really create those metrics or goals? I mean, I think all of us could create the goals based on what we've heard, but that's not really part of that's not something we'd encourage. But what would you suggest, Adrienne, if someone's just, you're not sure about them?
My guess is that two things need to happen. You probably need to spend more time getting to know them. Another few hours of investment before you start goal setting might clarify what it is that they want, even though they aren't able to articulate it very well. Because as an executive, your business is managing people, and you do start to get a sense for people. So use that intuition, I think, on your protege's behalf. And then when you have developed a better sense of who they are, then start suggesting some goals for the relationship. Write those down and have them articulate, why, if they're really just not invested, they're just going to keep saying, yeah, that's fine. And you can't really help that, but you can at least set out some initial goals for your relationship to try to make it work. And then if it is still not working well, I suggest you follow your advisor's advice and set them up with a new mentor. But initially, just, draw them out more and then use that information to help to go ahead and set some goals for the relationship. Always add to them more later as they start to express themselves a little bit better.
Any other questions for Adrienne or anything you all are worried about or excited about?
This is a great class. I had as Violet got to meet them, Katie got to meet them at the first opening session, and they are, there's some feelings I get when the class comes together that is just, some are just extraordinary and some are, fine, and they get to that place. But this class came out of the gate sort of collected and visioned and focused, and so I think I'm hopeful that you all will have a great year with them, because I think they're sort of set up for success. We started off at Girl Scouts, so what better place could you be to start off a mentoring experience with your girls?
Absolutely. Well, Adrienne, thank you so
Thanks,
much for
Adrienne.
taking the time to spend with us. This was extraordinarily helpful. Actually, if you would email me those resources, because I don't think they came through the chat on my end. Has everybody else seen them? Okay. So if you just want to email them to me, I'll get them out to the rest of the group. And I'm certain that we will be talking again soon. So thank you all so much.
Thanks,
Oh, and
everybody.
there's-
Have a great day.
Now they're there.
Oh, now they're there, but that's okay. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks.